All right, so Shelby actually left a comment on my last reaction video, and I had made this entire video, the entire video you're watching or listening to right now, I made this before I saw her comment. Okay, so that's her comment that she left up on the screen right now. She said, I watched the whole thing and I think you made very good points that made me think about the video from a different perspective. Thanks for sharing and being objective about it. Okay, so I think that's a very reasonable response. So, yeah, keep in mind as you're listening to everything I'm saying in this video, I recorded all of that before I saw this comment that she left on my last video. Okay, so there's the disclaimer. So Shelby exists and makes stuff. She made another video. Let's see what she says.
As many of you guys know, a few days ago I posted a video called You Are Not Ugly, You Are Dangerous. And a lot of you have taken that personally, and a lot of you have even made response videos about that. A video that was essentially about consent and women's rights.
Shelby, I don't think that the problem that so many people had with your original video and the problem that I had, I don't think it was because all of these people are against the idea of consent and against the idea of women's rights. I know in my case, I can only speak for myself. The problem I had with your video was you were painting very broad strokes, just claiming that the main reason that so many men are perpetually lonely, it's not because they're ugly. It has nothing to do with women. Women hold no responsibility whatsoever. I don't think you said that explicitly, but that really seems to be the way it was coming across. I mean, you did say that the male loneliness epidemic is self-imposed, okay? That's the problem that I and so many others had with that video. You are trivializing men's issues. You are acting like if a man is lonely, then it's definitely his own fault. And I'm sure, when you're making a video like this, it's okay to speak in generalities. So I know you probably don't believe and you wouldn't claim that there are 0 men in this world that are lonely due to no fault of their own. But the fact of the matter is, it's a lot of men, a lot of the lonely men in this world that are forever alone, as they say. The reason there is a male loneliness epidemic is at least partially, please, Shelby, understand this. It is at least partially because of women, because of women's high standards. It is very difficult for even an average looking man, but not thinking about even an average looking man. Think about, obviously, there is a large amount of men that are below average in looks, okay? And I know this is hard for you to understand, Shelby, because you don't have this personal lived experience, but please try to understand, and please believe me when I tell you this. There is a lot of below average looking men that they truly have tried. They try to improve their looks. They try to dress nice, and they don't all hate women. They're not all dangerous to women. In fact, most of them aren't dangerous to women, and most of them do not hate women. They struggle to find a woman to date them, or even find a woman to have a one-night stand with them or anything, much less marry them. They're struggling because they are so unattractive that no woman wants to date them, okay? It's very difficult. It's very difficult for men these days, even average-looking men. But even if you ignore that, how difficult it is for average-looking men, surely you can understand that there is a lot of men, say, in the bottom 30% of looks that certainly have trouble dating, okay? And it's not because all these men have super high standards and they're only going for Becky and Stacy, as you said. a lot of these men have realistic standards and they go for their looks match. You know, they go for women that, frankly, that look kind of like you, Shelby, or even worse, you know? I don't think you're like super ugly or anything, okay? So I'm not trying to insult you, but a man that is equally as good looking as you are, Shelby, he will have no chance. He would have no chance with pretty much any woman. Sure, he could probably get with a 450-pound, a woman that's so fat she can't even walk. And she's got to ride the mobility scooter at Walmart. And she doesn't even brush her teeth. She probably doesn't even have any teeth left. She's, 20 years older than this man, this hypothetical man. The male version of you, basically, Shelby. He has no chance. He has no chance. That's how screwed up the dating market is for men. And for you to come out and say, like right off the bat in this response video here, I think we made it, like 5 seconds into the video? For you to just come right out and say it's all the criticism I'm receiving is because, well, I made a video that was just talking about women's rights and consent, and I guess anybody that criticizes any little thing I said in that video, they must not support a woman's rights. They must not support consent. It's ridiculous. You know that's not true. You know that's not true. Come on.
I'm here to tell you that if you find the idea of consent and women's safety to be controversial, you can go ahead and unsubscribe. That's fine.
Again, Shelby, it's not... Most of the people that have an issue with the things you were saying in the last video, that doesn't mean that they are against consent. It doesn't mean they're against women's rights, okay? I don't know if you watched my response video. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. It's fine if you didn't. I don't really expect you to. I don't expect you to watch this either. But you can't just act like the male loneliness epidemic is self-imposed, which is the main issue that people were taking with the things you said in the last video. You can't just say something like that and then, you get the backlash for that. Fine. If you stand by what you said, that's fine. But don't sit here now and try to deflect all of the valid criticisms by saying that if you criticize me, it's just because you don't think women should have the right to consent. That's ridiculous. That is bad faith. You know for a damn fact that's not the issue people had with your video. I'm sure if I go through your comment section on that video and I cherry pick some comments, I could probably find a few comments where guys were saying something like that. It wouldn't surprise me. I get some very crazy people saying very crazy things in my comments, so I know how that goes. But for the most part, most people, believe it or not, even most lonely men, even most men that would describe themselves as an inkwell, most of these people are just, for the most part, pretty much regular people. They may have some kind of mental issues or whatever. There were issues in their life. But for the most part, they are mostly reasonable enough that they're not against women having rights. They're not against the concept of consent. Okay? Let's not be ridiculous here. Let's try to be fair. Okay? Let's try to actually address what people, actually address the criticisms. Okay? Actually address the points that people were speaking out against in your last video. Actually address that. Don't just do this bad faith bullcrap you're doing right now, where you act like, oh, if you must hate women, you're dangerous to women. Ridiculous.
Yeah, so if you are not here anymore, or if you wanted to leave because you don't appreciate women's rights to choose and you don't want to consent to intercourse with a woman before you have sex with her, then you can go ahead and go.
Yep. Good point. Good point, Shelby. That is surely the only possible criticism someone could have with your video. Imagine if I made a video saying, I don't know, I can't even think of a good thing, but look, you made your video claiming that like the primary main reason that so many men are lonely and they can't find a partner, it's because it's their own fault and it's because they're dangerous. That's ridiculous, okay? So to act like anybody that has an issue with what you said in that video, they must be a freaking pissed. They must not support a woman's right to choose. They must not support a woman's right to consent. Surely you don't think that's a valid criticism. You say you don't want to pander to anybody, but you're like, maybe you're just pandering to yourself, I don't know. But the things you're saying, it's so dishonest. This is so dishonest. And it makes me think, it's like if you had actual valid points to make to address the criticisms that people were making against your last video, then I think you would be making those points right now. I think you would be actually addressing the actual things that people were criticizing you for if you had a good argument. But you obviously don't, because you said a whole bunch of bullcrap, and now you just want to act like if you disagree with me, then you're a fucking racist. Come on. Let's get real here, okay? Let's get real.
I know there was a lot of people that tried to react to this video negatively. There's kind of a smear campaign going on about me, and I'm just a regular person, All
right, real quick, and I don't know exactly what she meant by this, but when you say something is a smear campaign, to me, that would mean that there is some kind of coordinated effort between multiple people, like it's a group of people working together to smear you. In this case, I don't think that's happening at all. I know I made a reaction video to you, and I wasn't influenced by anybody else. I wasn't taking part of a smear campaign. I made that video because you made your dumbass video and you said a bunch of dumb stuff. And so I felt like, hey, she's putting out a bunch of misinformation, a bunch of stupid stuff. She's just saying a bunch of retarded shit. So I gotta say something about this. I gotta correct the record. I felt like I had to. Okay? And that was my decision. Yes, I did get the idea because someone commented to me on one of my videos. They said, hey, check out this video. Maybe you should react to this. So that's how I found your video. But the decision to make a reaction, that was my own decision. Okay? I know you probably think that me and maybe Raymond and some other people, you probably think we're all like coordinating, like we're all gang stalking you, and okay, but that's not what's happening. Okay? I can't speak about anybody else. Maybe there are other people that are working together in a coordinated effort to smear your image. I highly doubt that. I very highly doubt that. I mean, look, you made a very controversial video. You know that. You know the things you were saying in that video were going to get you a lot of hate. So don't be surprised when a lot of people separately, on their own, all decide, hey, I hate what she just said. I'm going to make a video reacting to that, responding to that, correcting the record. Okay? That's not a smear campaign. And, I don't know that Shelby meant it that way. She may have just been trying to say, just using the word smear campaign just offhand and not really meant anything by it. But yeah, just wanted to say that.
So unfortunately, there were people that I had given a chance to on this platform that had decided to completely revile me and turn against me. And that's what they're going to do. They decided that what I said was a very personal attack on them specifically when it never was.
I am curious who she's talking about here, like who she gave a chance to that turned against her and then thought her video was a targeted attack on them specifically. She might be talking about Raymond Thoughts and Minds. I know they did a live stream together at some point. I didn't know they had anything. I thought they were like cordial with each other because I watched their live stream and they seemed to be cool with each other. So I don't know anything about what's gone on since then, but I don't think she's talking about me. I know she's aware of my channel. She has commented on at least one of my videos. There's a good chance she saw the reaction video I made. But yeah, in case you were speaking, including me in what you just said here, Shelby, I didn't really think that you were speaking about me specifically. There was part of your video where I thought maybe you were including me, but if you say that you were not speaking about me personally, I believe you. I don't think there's any reason you would lie about that. So, okay.
I'm kind of in the middle of like a controversial attack upon my channel right now, and it's affecting my view count, it's affecting my subscriber count, but I really don't care. I think there's more important things in these metrics, and part of it is being honest.
I agree 100% with what you said there. There are times people have made negative reaction videos to my content. People have said a lot of very untrue things about me. People have attempted to smear my character and attack my channel, so to speak. And I agree, there are more important things, sticking to your guns, being honest, standing by what you truly believe in. That is what you should do. That is what you should do. Now, in this case, I find it hard to believe that you're just being honest here because from the start, this entire video right here and the things you're saying seems to be very bad faith. The way you're acting like anyone that had criticisms against you, you're acting like that's because they are misogynist and they don't think that women should have the right to choose or whatever. That it does not seem honest to me. And if it is honest, then that's you being an idiot. But yeah, I agree with what you said here, but I am suspicious of whether or not that's actually what you're doing.
I have been in situations that were very dangerous with men before. This is true. I have been stalked before. I have been pinned against walls before against my will. I've been cornered and attacked. And these things I have actually been through. So whoever's saying that that didn't happen is obviously just in denial that these things occur. And
Again, I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know what other people, how they've been reacting to your video. I think in my reaction, I was pretty clear. That kind of thing does happen. And if you say those things have happened to you, sure, they probably have. I mean, I don't know the full story. You're probably telling the truth about that. Sure, those kind of things happen. And it is bad that those things happen. Now, when you say that things like that happens to most women, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And also, when you use that to trivialize and to... The problem is that in your last video, you weren't necessarily acting like most men are dangerous and act like that, but you were acting like most men that experience chronic loneliness, that they are the type of men that behave in that way. And that is ridiculous because seriously, there is no correlation whatsoever between how violent a man is and how well he does with women. Okay, there's no correlation whatsoever. How dangerous a man is to women, like that doesn't really impact how successful he is with getting with women and with attracting women. That's not really a factor. Okay, so that's the problem I have, is that you want to put all those negative characteristics onto all lonely men. Okay, so If you hear a man online complaining about he's chronically lonely, he can't find a woman to date him, then I guess you just automatically assume he must be violent. He must be dangerous. But you can't make that assumption. And you should not make that assumption because that correlation does not exist. There is no connection there. So that's the problem with your last video. You are putting out this information into the world that, well, if a man's lonely, it's because he's a violent, dangerous man. And that is not true. And that's dangerous because a lot of lonely men, I don't know if it's most of them, but a lot of lonely men they're not violent, okay? They're just regular guys. And the reason they're lonely is maybe they're not very attractive. Maybe they have some form of autism or something, okay? Or they're very shy, which makes it hard for them to meet women, makes it very difficult for them to approach women. They may have some kind of anxiety disorders. It's not because they're dangerous, okay? That has nothing to do with it.
I have not said anything that was not proven through this video.
Okay, just real quick. Here's one thing you said in your video. You threw out a statistic that I think is provably wrong, or it's what you said is not what the actual statistic even is. You said that 1 in 4 women experience completed SA. I tried to find where you got that from online, and the closest I could find is something from the CDC that said 1 in 4 women have experienced completed or attempted SA. Now, you might argue that is very similar, and maybe you may have even wrote that down, and maybe you just, a slip of the tongue or whatever, you accidentally didn't say the second part. I could totally see that being the case, okay? So I don't think this is like a huge issue, but that is incorrect, what you said, okay? That is incorrect. Now, I question even what that study actually says, or what the thing from the CDC actually says. I question the validity of that to begin with, because I'm pretty sure that comes from a quote unquote study that uses women's responses to a survey to get their information. And I don't think that is a valid form of science. But even if you take it at its face value, what you said is not what the actual study says. Okay, so that is not provably true.
If you took it personally and you believe that this video is about you, it probably is. Not in the sense that I made it specifically about you, but if you resonated with this in any way on a subconscious level, then you probably are part of the problem.
Look, Shelby, you were saying in your video, and you even titled the video, I forget the exact title, but it was something along the lines of, lonely men aren't lonely because they're ugly, they're lonely because they're dangerous. I know that's not what the title was, but it was something like that. And that was the main message of what you were saying in the video. That's what I took from it. Okay, so here's the thing. I do take that personally because you were acting like it's all lonely. Okay, my mom just got home, so I do have some time to myself. I can still record, but I have to talk quieter now. So yeah, that's why I'm talking different now. But okay, Shelby, listen. The reason that myself and a lot of other innocent men feel as though you were speaking directly towards us and you were talking about us is because you were talking as if the only reason that a man could be left lonely, or that, in the majority of cases, the reason a man is chronically lonely is just because he's dangerous and he's violent. But that is not true, okay? So speaking for myself personally, I didn't resonate on any level with the idea of being against the idea of consent or being against women's rights or hating women or anything. I don't resonate with that, but I do resonate with being a chronically lonely man. Okay? So when you say a bunch of untrue things about the male loneliness epidemic, and you say a bunch of untrue things about the character of men that find themselves in that position, then don't be surprised when a lot of those men take issue with the things that you were saying about them, okay? You made a video where you were calling a bunch of innocent men, not anyone specific, of course. You were speaking in generalities, but you were speaking about a very large group of men, chronically lonely men, and you were saying, hey, you guys, you're the problem, you're violent, you're dangerous to women, and that's why women don't like you. When the reality is, that's usually not the reason. That's not the reason these men are lonely. They have other reasons, okay? They're very shy, or they're ugly. They have reasons that women don't like them that oftentimes is not within their control. But even if it is things that's within their control, I do think that a lot of my problems actually are within my control, the problems with my personality, but it's not that I'm dangerous. It's not that I'm violent. It certainly is not that, okay? So that's what I take issue with. So please don't believe that anybody that took issue with what you were saying, or anybody that felt like you were speaking to them, don't think that's because you were right about what you were saying about them, or that proves the point of what you were saying about them. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. People are upset about what you said because you were saying things about a large group of people that is not true. So of course they're upset about it. Of course they take issue with it. What did you expect to happen?
Not all lonely men are dangerous, but some men are lonely because they are dangerous. And we cannot discount the fact that some men are lonely because they are dangerous, and this is a true statement.
Okay, here's the thing, Shelby. If you had just said what you just said in your original video, that not all men that are lonely is because they're dangerous, but some men are lonely because they're dangerous, I think if that's all you had said, there would be no controversy. There would be people that disagree with even that. I think, for the most part, that's not really accurate. There might be some men that the reason they can't get women is because they're just so extremely dangerous, but I don't know. I'm really not saying that. I just don't really think that's true. But I'm also not offended by that statement. What you just said, I take no offense with. If you believe that some keyword, some men are lonely because they're dangerous, and you believe that not all men that are lonely is because they're dangerous, then okay, I don't think anybody has an issue with that statement. But that's not the way you were presenting it. That's not at all the way you were presenting it in your last video, okay? If that's what you actually believe, then we're cool. That's cool, okay? I have no issue with that statement. I don't necessarily agree 100%, but that's a fine thing for you to believe. I don't really care. But even now, yes, you just said that now in this part of the video, about halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through, but you started this video off by making all these claims that anyone that took issue with your last video, that it's because they're part of the problem and they don't care about women's rights, they don't care about a woman's right to consent. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, okay? Because what you just said was so much more nuanced than anything you said in your initial video. I'm sure you realize that, right? Like, think about it for a second. And I'm not just talking about the way you titled the last video. Obviously, the title was kind of making it look like you're talking about all men that are lonely is because they're dangerous. But I understand that the title of the video, you're trying to grab attention and everything. I can look past a headline and look at the actual article and understand that, the headline, the title of the video, that's for attention, okay? The substance is what really matters more. But here's the thing. The substance of your video, everything you said for the full 28 minutes or however long, was all backing up the title 100%. You never spoke with any amount of nuance in that video. There was like one moment where you said something like, I know there are some good men out there, but you were presenting it as if the only reason that a man could be lonely is because he's dangerous, okay? And again, I understand speaking hyperbolically and speaking in general terms, so I don't even take that to mean that what you intended to say was that it truly is the only reason a man is lonely is because he's dangerous. But it seemed very apparent to me that you think that the majority of lonely men, the vast majority of the time, it is because they're dangerous. That's what it seems to be that you're saying, and that is what the issue is, okay?
I have had so many close call situations when it comes to men that I honestly think I have survivor's guilt in a lot of ways because of all the humiliation that I've gone through, not just on YouTube, but in real life.
Look, truly, and I am being sincere here, if you have really had situations like you're saying, where you had encounters with violent men that don't respect your consent, that is horrible, okay? That is obviously horrible. And sure, I get some crazy people in my comments, okay? Some of my audience might disagree with that, but I think they're stupid if they disagree with that, okay? It is horrible if those things have happened to you. Okay, so here's one thing I want to say. Some people are not going to just take your word for it, okay? Some people are not going to believe you when you say things, and that's fine. You have to understand that. If somebody doesn't know you and they just see you're a person that makes videos on YouTube, they don't know you at all, don't expect them to believe anything you say, okay? Like, you can't really get offended by that. And also, listen, I know you may not see things this way, but it is a fact that in a lot of cases, when women talk about they've had a close call situation or they had an encounter with violent men, a lot of the times that actually is bullcrap. And we shouldn't believe them when they say that. Because, look, I'm not saying this is the case for you. I don't know, okay? But I have had the case where I was walking home from the train station and there was a girl that was walking in the same direction as me and she was in front of me and she pretty much ended up like running away from me because I guess she thought I was following her. Okay, so I was just walking home. So sometimes women do interpret things in a way where they think they were in danger when they weren't. Which I can understand that. Like, it makes sense, better safe than sorry. Of course, you said, you had an experience, you're like pinned against the wall or whatever. Okay, that is a very direct thing. Like, I don't think you would be misinterpreting that, okay? So, you say that happened, sure, that probably happened, and that's bad. But you really shouldn't be too offended when a lot of men just, in a general case, don't believe everything that women say, okay? Because a lot of what they say actually is BS.
I think there are ways to address certain things that you disagree with, but attacking someone and only proving them right on your channel is not the way.
In the off chance that you are speaking directly about me with this, or you are including my video in this, sure, some of what I said, I guess you could consider an attack, that I said you look like a horse or whatever, okay? The reason that I jokingly insulted your appearance a couple of times is because you were saying very offensive things, insulting the character of thousands, hundreds of thousands, actually millions, I believe, easily millions of men in this world, okay? Because there's a lot of men that are chronically lonely, and it's not always because they're dangerous, okay? And you were not speaking about that with any nuance whatsoever. You were just presenting it as if a man is lonely, then he's a dangerous motherfucker, okay? And that I took issue with, okay? So I know you did not personally insult me, but you insulted a group that I am a part of, that describes me, a lonely man, that describes me, but I'm not dangerous. And there's a lot of us out there who fit that description. So you were saying very untrue things about a very large group of people. So, you insulted me. So I said you look like a horse. I don't think that's like the worst attack in the world. If it makes you feel any better, I think you look like a human, okay? You look a little bit more like a horse than most humans do, but that's not even necessarily a bad thing. So I don't think you should be that offended by it. Horses are, amongst the animal kingdom, horses are one of the more handsome animals out there. So that's not even something you should be that offended by. And I am, I'm joking around a little bit, but if it makes you feel better, I'm sorry I said that. I should be more mature and not say that you look like a horse. But on your end, I hope that you can think about the things that you said and you can realize that you did insult a lot of men. You said very horrible things. When you imply that a man is violent and he's dangerous, when his actual problem is just that he's very ugly and due to no fault of his own in a lot of cases, you can't be that surprised and you can't act all offended now that people are making fun of you and insulting you. Okay? People are going to insult you when you insult them. That's just how it is. You got to, if you can dish it out, you got to be ready to take some insults back yourself because that is always going to happen.
So, if you want to respond to this video again and further prove my point, feel free.
I am obviously responding to this video, but I hope you're able to listen to the things I say if you actually do watch this and you're able to realize I'm not further proving your point, okay? I am disagreeing with the way you framed things in that video, and I am making my arguments, and I'm trying to explain to you why I think the things that you were saying it was irresponsible. Really, it was irresponsible the way you were speaking about a very large group of men, and you were painting them with broad strokes as if they are all dangerous, and that's why they're lonely. We disagree on that matter, okay? That doesn't mean that I think women shouldn't be allowed to consent. I absolutely do not think that, and I think I said that multiple times in my video, just to be clear, okay? So I don't think that. I think that absolutely women should have rights. Women should be able to consent. I don't think that any woman deserves any harm whatsoever if she is an innocent woman. Obviously if she commits a murder or something, she should go to prison, but please do not continue to try to deflect any and all criticism like it just proves your point. I think everything I'm saying is going to fall on deaf ears here, but I don't know. So that's it. That was the end of her video. I don't really have much else to say about it. I think that at a certain point in this video, she did give a more nuanced take that I think if that's what she had said in the start at her other video, that it's just some lonely men, that the reason they're lonely is that they're dangerous. If that's all she had said, I think we'd all be fine with that. I know I wouldn't have bothered to make a response because to me that's an opinion that I think I don't really agree with, or on the scale of, I think that for the most part when a man is chronically lonely, it doesn't really have anything to do with how dangerous he is. um, and I don't think there's really hardly any cases, like it's hard to imagine if a man was really good looking but he was like violent and dangerous. I think that man probably, in 99.999% of cases, he would easily be able to find plenty of women to date him just because he's good looking. I think that's how it works. Okay. And Shelby, you might disagree with that. That's fine. Then we just disagree. Okay. So if you had given that more nuanced take from the start, nobody would have had a problem. But yeah, at this point, I feel like I'm just repeating myself. Um, that's it.